Hey guys, what's going on? Rage Gamer. I wanted to bring you a little budget gaming rig that I had put together for a buddy of mine. The limit was, or the budget was around 500 bucks. So I'll start first with the case, which is a Silverstone Tech. It's PS08, I believe, or PS208 on the case. The case is pretty small. It's just a micro ATX case. Um, As you can tell, it's super small. Yeah, it's PS08. Um, Good things about the case. One, it's small. It's easy to move. It is cheap. I was able to get this case for about 30 bucks on Amazon. Out the door for a Silverstone case is pretty phenomenal. It does have a removable dust filter with an actual removable screen here. It's got an air penetrator fan in the front. It's 120 millimeters. It's got USB 3.0 support, which is a huge plus, especially at the price point. It's nice to see now that like almost every manufacturer is just basically coming up with the standard USB 3.0. Other than that, it's okay in terms of quality. I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, you can't really complain much at all when you talk about the $30 price point, because I mean that's super cheap, especially for a brand that's typically very overpriced, in my opinion. Some things I don't like about the case. Number one here, so there's two 5 1/4 bays right here. These panels, you squeeze the sides here, and they pop out. Except for this is the stupidest design ever known to man. Not only like it's fine because some Cooler Master cases use the same basic system, but it's a lot better. So you pop this in, and it either goes too far in, so then you're struggling to get it to pop back out to the default position. And then anytime you move this case, anytime at all that you move this case, if you grab up here, you push this panel in. It's not very secure at all. It's super frustrating. So as long as you don't touch the front of this thing, it's fine. Um, I mean, it looks clean. It's fine. Um, it's a nice solid black. Everything's black, which looks good. On the back, it's just a back panel. No big deal. Go to rear I/O. Power supply is up top, which I haven't had a top-mounted power supply in a while. So that was that was fine though. Then you got your I/O shield in the back, and then your video card. It's only got 4 expansion slots, but again, this is a very small case, so you wouldn't expect to see more than 4 on there. And then you go to the other side. It does have this big vent here for intake air. There's no mounts for fans natively, but you know it is what it is. I don't really like fans on the side anyway, to be honest with you. The case itself is not very wide here. Um, in fact, I had to change up. I originally had a different CPU cooler that I was gonna use, but because the width of it is so narrow, I actually had to buy a different one. I was gonna use a Cooler Master Hyper T4, and I ended up having to buy a Hyper TX3 for the shelf height, because it was just the T4 was I think it was this will only support, you have to be under 140 millimeters tall, and the T4 was like 143, so it would have stuck out. And even still, the TX3, I don't know if you guys can see in here or not, but we're kissing the side panel. So that's my beef with the case. It's okay for the price. It's great, and it has USB 3.0 support, and it's Silverstone, so I mean it does have some good things going for it. The powder coating is really good. Um, that I guess the paint quality is excellent on it, and it's black and black on the inside too, which is nice. So I'll take the side panel off, show you guys the inside and some of the components that I used for this $500 gaming build. Okay, so as you can see, it is pretty tight in here. So what I have in here, I went ahead and went with a MSI FM2 MA E35 board. It was recommended by a different, a YouTube channel. The board itself, like, I know everybody loves MSI, but I'm not a huge fan of MSI boards. It always seems like I have some kind of hiccup or technicality or some kind of small issue every time I build with the MSI board. This build was fine. I didn't encounter any errors, so I mean, maybe that's just my opinion. But the board itself worked fine. And you know, I'm fairly happy with it. It does have EUFI BIOS, which is pretty cool, and it works fine. It was perfectly fine. The processor I chose to go with was the AMD Athlon 750K. Now, I didn't do any overclocking on this unit itself because I didn't really feel it was necessary for the person that's going to. But the Athlon 750K is essentially it's an APU. It's like an A8 5600K without the integrated graphics. So it has no discrete graphics on the chip, but it is a full-fledged quad core. So I thought that was a good option. I thought it was kind of a cool idea. And you could use the FM2 board, which is pretty neat, because the board obviously is pretty modern. SATA 6 gigabit per second. It's got a USB 3 front port, and actually one thing I did like is the USB 3.0 port is actually where it's supposed to be, down near the front panel connections, which is the first board I've seen with that, because usually the USB is somewhere around here by your RAM slots or by your 24-pin power. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, I went with Athlon 750K for a processor. This is a Cooler Master TX3. It is like 139 millimeters tall. Now I don't know this cooler. Now it is a budget cooler. Okay, so because it's AMD, the Cooler Master takes advantages of AMD's standard mounting bracket, so you don't actually have to put a new backplate or any kind of mounting on there. So what you have to do is they give you a two-piece bracket system to attach to AMD's stock clips on the motherboard. That is the worst idea ever, and it was a huge pain in the ass, mostly because for those of you guys who have like put AMD CPU coolers on before, it's just a little like a pulley switch on the end that tightens it onto the CPU. Well, on first go, when I put this in here, the little lever, the pull switch down here, snapped. Like there's a spacer between the handle and the clip itself, and when I went to press it down the first time, that little gap, or that little almost like a little spacer screw, actually broke off. Now it didn't damage the handle or the clip, but it did separate them, so I had two pieces now. So I had to use my own ingenuity, and I was able to drive a little screw through the two of them, and I was able to clip it down, and it's fully secure now, and it's not going to go anywhere. But it was a huge pain in the ass, and I would really like to see companies kind of, if they're going to use AMD stock clip system and stuff, that's fine, but try to make a little bit more of a durable or a quality. Well, I can't even say durable, because it's not even as if you're like putting that much pressure on the handle. I don't know, maybe I got a defective one or whatever. It was pretty annoying. I fixed it because I wasn't about to use the stock cooler, because I mean, who uses stock coolers? It's ridiculous. And also, because they use because they use the stock AMD brackets, the damn fan points down, so you can't even orientate the cooler to take air from the intake out like you would in a normal system. So now you have two options. You can either blow air, you can suck air up, or you can suck air down. Either way doesn't really matter, because it's not really that efficient. So now all the air that I'm getting for the CPU cooler is through that vent in the side of the panel. So that's another thing I didn't really care for. The system itself, when it fires up, it's actually working just fine. In terms of cooling, I mean, I think at load, at heavy testing, um, I wasn't getting much higher than like 50 degrees, 49 degrees, something like that. So obviously when he's gaming on this thing, it's not going to get that hot. But nonetheless, I don't really care for that design. Um, I'd much rather see a little bit different design, but it works and it was cheap, and it's much better than the stock cooler, obviously. So that's good. For a graphics solution, I got a Zotac GTX 650 Ti Boost. So that's the 650 Ti. It's got like a, obviously it's boost, so it has a boost clock on it. So it's a little higher than the standard frequency, and it also comes with 2 gigabytes of GDDR5. In my testing with this card, pretty impressed, because as long as assuming that you're gaming at like 1080p and you're not at like hitting 1440 or 1600p. At 1080p, this card will play damn near every game at high to max settings. Obviously, certain games like Crysis 3, that's not going to happen. With Tomb Raider, I ran that on Ultra and averaged 48 frames per second. The new Tomb Raider, obviously. That's the second to the highest level. I think Tomb Raider has all the way up to Ultimate, but a lot of cards can't touch that one. Any other game that you play that's mainstream right now for PCs, you're gonna play. I mean, you gotta understand it. It is a $170 graphics card, so there's gonna be certain games where you're gonna have to lower the settings, but that doesn't really change the effect, because the games they all look really good. And me personally, with Zotac cards, I always like how they look. They obviously it's in here now, so you can't see it, but that black and orange combination. The fan shroud down here, it's got the shroud. This is actual metal. It's not like a plastic, which is, well, yeah, it's like a metal finish. It's really nice. I really like the way the Zotac does their designs and how they make their cards look. The card itself, it's got 2 dual link DVI slots, a HDMI, and a display port. Oh, actually, scraps that. 1 dual link and 1 single link DVI. I was able to find a 1 terabyte Western Digital Caviar Blue. I think that was $62, and then I just got a cheap Light-On DVD writer that was like $17. And then, of course, to top everything off, Corsair CX430. Cable management. Cable management was fine. Considering how small the case is, obviously you're not going to be perfect, and you guys can see there's plenty of wires in there, but they're all tucked away, they're all pushed in, and I do have some cables routed around the back. I was not able to wrap the 24 pin around the back and put the back panel on, but I was able to. I don't know if you can see this, it's tucked. The 24 pin got tucked under, and then on the other side of the case, there's a nice little pocket where you can put a lot of your wires. So in terms of cable management, considering how small the case was, I was able to get by just fine. And there's not a big rat's nest of cables, super visible. But this is a very small case, so you're gonna see a lot more wires than normal. Actually, something interesting about the CX430 is it only comes with an 8-pin CPU power, which this motherboard's a 4-pin. Not a huge issue. You can still adapt the 8-pin onto a 4-pin, not a problem, but it's unusual, because normally you see them come with either a 4-pin or an 8-pin, but it just came with a single 8-pin. So, but to be fair, that actually worked out better, because this is not a modular power supply, and it gave me one less cable that I had to hide. The power supply itself, it comes with two SATA power lines. I think they have 3 each on them. And then it came with 1 Molex, so it had like 3, and then a floppy. I didn't use any of those. Just had to use the one for the hard drive and the disk drive. Obviously, if you buy an OS, that's going to be an additional cost. $527 for this rig. Now, of course, prices do vary and all that crap, but at the end of the day, this is a legitimate gaming rig. Of course, it's not a workhorse. You're not going to do a lot of workstation stuff or video editing and things like that on here, but as a pure gaming rig, right now, $527 out the door. minus the OS. And actually, in fact, that's to include. I got a keyboard and a mouse, just your basic keyboard and mouse. 527. That's pretty damn good considering the performance that you actually get. Because as an enthusiast, I spend way too much money on my stuff, so it's kind of refreshing to spend, well, $500 is not a small amount of money, but in terms of gaming computers, that's a very small amount of money, and to be able to actually you can play any game you want with this rig at $527 or something like that. That is very impressive and a little bit humbling to me. So yeah, that was my review. $500 around that budget for a gaming rig. And so yeah, pretty good. If you guys have any questions, comments, let me know. Check you later. Bye.